p.m. we will call to order this special meeting of the Channahon Village Board for Public Information Forum, January 11th, 2022. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, will you call roll, please?
Sure. Harroner. Here. Skaggs.
Yeah. Here.
Slocum.
Here.
Greco.
Here.
Host. McMillan.
We do have I'm like counting people. We do have trustee Skaggs attending remotely. Hopefully your weather's better than ours, and we do have a quorum present this evening. This public information forum regarding an alternative water source for the Village of Channahon is being recorded for posting on our village website. The recording is intended to provide the information for members of the public who cannot be in attendance this evening. It is important that the meeting be conducted smoothly and with a level of decorum so that all interested parties are able to fully hear and understand as best as possible the information being presented. As such, we ask the board members and staff to please utilize your microphones when speaking. And to the public, please wait until the question and answer portion of the agenda to provide comments or questions. And please utilize the podium and the microphone for asking questions so that you'll be able to be heard on the recording. And do not speak over each other or interrupt others while you are speaking, because it tends to get garbled in the recording, and we would like it to be a clean recording so that we can post it on our website so everybody who was not able to be in attendance will be able to get this information as well. With that being said, Chris Alm from Strand Associates, our engineering firm and a resident with a vested interest in this as well, has a short presentation. And
You didn't say short.
well, it's relatively short for the amount of information that needs to be presented. And then we wanted to make sure that we had a lot of time for residents to ask questions.
Thank you. We're getting ready here. I'm going to pass these. This is a summary, a couple-page summary of what the whole presentation you have, but it's something to reference. Just pass that around.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Board, for having me here yet again to sit through a presentation about water, which I'm very passionate about. I know more than anybody else in the room right now. And thank you, staff, for having me and helping me through this process. And thank you very much, residents that have come out to see this. I think this is a very important topic, and I'm glad you made time to come out and learn more about the topic and voice your opinion. I am Chris Olm. I've been with Strand Associates for over 25 years, providing consulting throughout the Chicagoland area with regard to municipal water systems. I've assisted the Village of Channahon since the late 90s on water system projects and other projects. And I've been following this situation with the aquifer decline since the mid-2000s and working through the radium compliance projects. I presented presentations. This will be the 5th presentation I think I presented to, maybe 6th to this board on this topic. They've always asked me to do a 20-minute presentation, and I have yet to hit the mark, but they keep inviting me back. So sit tight, and I'll go as fast as I can through this information without the cooperation of the PowerPoint presentation. Going the wrong way. Arrow up. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the current water supply source and sustainability concerns. Why are we even talking about switching sources right now? I'm going to cover that first. And then we're going to talk about some recent studies and investigations by neighboring communities. What of all the neighboring communities that are affected as well with this situation? I'm going to go through the details of the alternatives that the village investigated. And then I'll provide the cost comparison and feasibility analysis, which I'm sure is the only reason you're all here, but save the best for last so that you guys stick around. And then we'll have an open discussion, and hopefully I'll be able to, or will be able to answer your questions. So the Northern Illinois Groundwater Supply Study was conducted by the Illinois State Water Survey. Illinois State Water Survey is a part of the University of Illinois program in Urbana-Champaign. The I'll just read here, you can't read that from the slide. But the University of Illinois State Water Survey has been a leader in the study of water resources for more than a century. ISWS provides basic applied scientific research and expertise to benefit the people with regard to water. So U of I is #2 civil engineering university in the nation, and these folks are leaders in this. So the experts have followed this for years now. In 2015, they completed another round of study and published this document that you see on the screen here, in which what previously was believed to be aquifer was sustainable until the year 2065 or beyond for the area. This 2015 study found out that it's probably closer to 2030 for the city of Joliet when their water source starts to become problematic and run out. The difference was they created a groundwater computerized model in which led them to this cause for greater concern. As a result, many of the area municipalities and industrial groundwater users commissioned and funded further research on this. And the village of Channahon was one of those communities that participated in further research after 2015. So you see here a section that they created, a graphic of a section of the earth. The refined groundwater modeling that they conducted helped the area communities better understand the risk. So the two aquifers that they focused on are circled in yellow there. The top one is the St. Peter Formation, which is roughly 800 to 900 feet deep in this area. That one is already running dry and dewatered. The one that the village of Channahon relies on for most of its water is the lower yellow circle there. That is in the Ironton-Galesville Formation. That is about 1,500 to 1,800 feet deep in this area. So Illinois State Water Survey collected massive amounts of data from all of the communities and industry on their deep wells and input it into the model to better calibrate it. And that was able to give a visual representation of what's happening over time. And what they found was there's dewatering of the deep sandstone, and its dewatering or running out of water is imminent. These graphs that you see on the left-hand side is the year 2020. The top, and then it goes to 2050 in the middle and 2070 projections on the right-hand side. The top row is the average day withdrawal. The bottom is during peak withdrawals. During your summer, we're withdrawing a lot more water out of the aquifer than we are now. So all of these pictures, the orange is showing where it's getting close to dewatering, and then the red areas are where it's dewatered. And these all depict with Joliet leaving the aquifer in 2030. So the misconception, or the belief before was, well, if Joliet gets off the aquifer, then everybody else will be fine. This model says otherwise. It basically shows that the sustainable yield is about 2 to 7 million gallons per day from this aquifer. And that communities such as Channahon are going to start to see problems as early as 2050. Another available aquifer that Channahon uses is shown here, but it presents different complications to long-term sustainability. A lot of residential wells, and about 5 to 10% of Channahon's water comes from a glacial till area. That's the, you see the quarry that has the pit run, as a lot of, as it's called here in the area. It's just a glacial till area alongside the river system. There are 2 wells that the village uses. Illinois State Water Survey also investigated this aquifer and the fractured bedrock aquifer that is immediately below it through a calibrated groundwater modeling. But their focus was more on the transportation of chemical from surface runoff. So that shallow aquifer source is not reliable or sustainable alternative. Channahon has done study and has a lot of information collected from the 2 existing wells that it has. While that aquifer is rapidly recharged, we see the groundwater table in this area out in front of us, and sometimes during heavy runs it rains, it even comes out onto Route 6. That's the groundwater table. So it's rapidly recharged, but there's a very fine sand in there that makes it difficult to get the water out without getting sand out with it. So you could create a well that gives you good high quality water, aside from what I'm going to go to next, but it is a very low producer. So you'd have to produce dozens of these wells to replicate what you're getting out of 2 deep wells right now. There's also very possible major future obstacles. There are elevated chloride levels in the water, and that is trending upward. That is due to de-icing operations mainly. The salt goes on the road, the salt runs into this groundwater table, so they are showing those chloride levels to continue to increase. There's also per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, which is also known as PFAS or PFOA. There's over 5,000 different substances that the United States no longer produces, but for many years they produced a lot of these forever chemicals, they're called, Scotchgard, Teflon, fire retardants. It was in a lot of things for a long time. It doesn't decay very easily, and it's starting to show at elevated levels. There could be some health concerns, and so the whole area in any shallow groundwater aquifers are starting to see those chemicals be detected and then rise. So the city of Joliet, they were shown to be the first one to have problems with their deep aquifer. So they began studies immediately after the release of the 2015 document. Their first step was to just exhaust everything. Their phase 1 included groundwater sources of going to the deeper aquifer, the Mount Simon, and to do aquifer storage and recharge, where they dump some sort of treated water into the aquifer and then pull it out later on. River sources that they looked at was Kankakee River, Illinois River, Des Plaines River, and Fox River. Lake Michigan water sources that they looked at was through City of Chicago, through DuPage Water Commission, through a water commission called South Bend Water Commission, Illinois American Water Company, and through Oak Lawn, which Oak Lawn purchases from the City of Chicago and supplies several communities out to New Lenox. Those options were narrowed down to Kankakee River, Illinois River, City of Chicago, DuPage Water Commission, and Southland Water Commission in the phase 2, and then the river sources fell out with their final study, and Southland Water Commission turned into the city of Joliet deciding, hey, we'll just go to Hammond, Indiana, put an intake in on our own, and treat it out here, and look at that. And their final selection was Lake Michigan via City of Chicago, purchasing it from Chicago at 84th and, near 84th and Kedvale by 2030, and having that running through the city's lines. So several other affected communities also are currently or did investigate their options. You can see the extensive list there, Jolie, I won't go through all of it. But everybody took a look at it when the data came out showing issues by 2030 and beyond. Many of them have since dropped out or found other sources. Currently, the potential partners in what's been called a regional water commission with Joliet. Since Joliet is definitely bringing Lake Michigan water out to the area, they had always gone at it with the interest of getting as many people involved as possible. It helps to lower their costs, but it also they could help the region in a partnership. Currently, the partners include the City of Joliet, Channahon, Crest Hill, Lamont, Minooka, Rockdale, Romeoville, and Shorewood. Because Joliet needs it by 2030, this is a 2030 commitment. The pipes has to be sized to serve all the partners, so Joliet was not interested in oversizing a pipe for a community that might not have a problem now and hoping that they have a problem in 2050 and jump on in 2050 or beyond. I keep going the wrong way, I apologize. So, Channahon source water analysis alternatives. Channahon looked at that Lake Michigan option with the Regional Water Commission partnership. Also looked at several different Illinois River options, variants of collecting water at the Marseilles Pool just downstream of the Dresden Dam and treating that water with an advanced water treatment plant. And they investigated the Kankakee River via Kankakee River Alliance. Kankakee River Alliance is consists of Godley, Diamond, Braidwood, and Coal City, but the potential for that to grow was out there. That one, the discussions kind of curtailed, the urgency let off of that Kankakee River Alliance, so that analysis didn't come to completion. And then there's remaining on the current aquifer. So Lake Michigan via the Regional Water Commission. This is where the City of Chicago Department of Water Management, they have 2 plants in the City of Chicago. The north one you may be familiar with. It's just north of Navy Pier. It sticks out there. That's the Jardine plant. The water that would serve Joliet in this region, if Channahon were to partner on the Regional Water Commission, would go through the south plant actually. So picture 75th Street and Lakeshore Drive. That is the Sawyer water purification plant. I think it's capable of treating about 750 million gallons of water a day, but the City of Chicago is capable of treating over 2 billion gallons of water a day. So certainly they were comfortable that they had ample water for this region. They sell it to the Regional Water Commission, which has been formed as far as ratified by the state of Illinois as a water commission, but the partners are not all fully known yet. That Regional Water Commission picks it up from Chicago, transmits it out to this region, and they would bring it to Channahon's doorstep, and that's where Channahon takes that water and distributes it through its water system to your doorstep, or your tap. As part of the process, it was learned that 2 new delivery locations will result in the need for some improvements to the village's system. The Village of Channahon created and calibrated a computerized water model of the distribution system to determine what improvements were necessary to make sure that water still goes to your house at the same pressure and flow rate as you're seeing now, and provides the same fire flow protection to your house as you see now. So that computerized water model was used to determine the extent of those internal improvements necessary. And this blue circles on there show the 2 locations where it's currently, conceptually, the water would be received. One is near Ridge and Route 6, near the water tank south of the Jewel there. And then the other one is where the water currently is received by the City of Joliet, near Youngs Road and Route 6. And Lake Michigan, via the new Water Commission, involves partnership with several communities, and I wanted to give the mayor a chance to talk about that.
I was going to say, I thought this was my slide, Chris. Thank you. You have done a wonderful job to this point, and I know that you have significantly more information after this. I did just want to take a couple of minutes from the perspective of an elected official. Is the aquifer going dry? We could hope that it's not, and it seems like, we have our town is named after where the waters meet. One would kind of think that we should have plenty of water, but that's not the case. And as Chris explained, there's a difference between the groundwater and the deep water aquifers. So we have to, as elected officials, make decisions based on the information available and the trained and educated professionals who provide us with that information. And that information is saying that even with the City of Joliet coming off, the aquifer is not replenishing quickly enough to maintain the levels that we need long term. 2 to 7 million gallons, we're almost at that by ourselves at build out. So, if other communities were to stay on as well, there's no way that that aquifer is going to be able to produce enough water for all of us. So what it really comes down to for us as an elected body is that we have a couple of options, and both of those options come with a price tag. I don't want people to think that the stay on the well system that we have doesn't come with a cost. That's not a free option. Our water bills are going up. There's a system to maintain, and no matter what option we choose, there is a price tag that goes along with that. As far as the Regional Water Commission, we have spent the last probably 2 years negotiating what that legislation would look like downstate so that whoever gets into that water commission will be fairly represented. It is not like there is, like Joliet is the big player in this and they're running that water commission. That water commission was specifically set up so that each community, no matter your size, no matter how much water you were drawing, would have a vote, an equal vote. So that was, we spent, like I said, a very long time negotiating that legislation with the state before this commission was even possible to happen. And then part of our I don't want to say do nothing because it's not a do nothing option, staying on the shallow wells. Our residents east of I-55 are already served by the city of Joliet. So even if we decided to stay on the shallow well and the deep well system, pump our own water essentially, stay on our wells, the east side, this residents east of I-55 would still be getting Joliet water, and that comes with a price tag for us as well in terms of improving the water system over there and the price tag that would the cost of water to those residents. So that do nothing is maybe buys us less time than we may think it is. And even if we said that the aquifer could sustain us until 2050, that's not like turning on a tap in 2050 going, okay, we're going to play this out until 2050 and then turn on the faucet. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into that, so in 10 or 12 years, we're going to need to, if we don't do the Regional Water Commission, we're still going to need to find another source, and then we're going to have to do it on our own, essentially. And that may, from all of the models, that is a more expensive option. And it buys us a little bit of time, but like I said, we have to then build a water treatment facility or find another supplier or do something else in maybe by 2030, by 2035. That's not, like I said, it's not we can kick this can down to 2050 and then just turn on the spigot. We have to do something before then. And building our own system would come with a price tag. Like I said, we would have to meet the ever-increasing regulations and requirements by the EPA on water treatment. And we would have to have a water treatment facility. We would have to staff it and hire professionals to do that. And there comes a point in time around 2050 where it breaks even, and then after that it's actually more expensive to pump our own water than it is to join the Regional Water Commission. So we have an enormous amount of information, and I don't want anybody to think that this was a quick study. We have been talking about this and studying this since 2019. So this has been going on for a number of years, and we have a huge decision to make, obviously. And our job as elected officials is to look at the available information that is presented to us based on educated professionals and scientific methods, and look at the big picture and what is in the long-term best interest of this community in the future, and whether that's, in 2050, I hope we're all still here, but beyond that, even it's our kids and our grandkids, and we have to do something to make sure that they have sustainable, clean, safe drinking water. And as I always say, this is, like I said, I have said this to the board on numerous occasions, this is a very big decision for us to make, and the price tag is very big no matter which way we decide to go. But I always say this to the public, all of this board lives here too. So any decisions that we make affect us the same way that it affects anybody else. It's not like we're making decisions out of hand and that don't affect anybody else. They affect us too. And as I said, Chris Elmar, engineer, obviously he's also a resident and has a vested interest in this water. So he's looking out for himself in doing this as well. So does our attorney in helping me negotiate that IGA and all of the agreements that go along with it. So I guess at the end of the day, like I said, we have a huge decision to make, but we are sitting up here as elected officials because you all elected us to be leaders. So we wanted this information to be presented to as much as the public as possible and let you ask your questions and offer comments. And so I thank you all for coming tonight. And I know Chris has more information. So I know, I wrecked him on his 20-minute mark, sorry for go.
Thank you. And the village leaders, the mayor, and managers have been attending numerous meetings for at least a year now in becoming a potential partner, and many communities that didn't even aren't even going forward with becoming partners have been working with the Regional Water Commission to form it. A lot of work has gone into that by the mayor. So, near-term timeline for Lake Michigan via the Regional Water Commission. The reason we're here today, when the water doesn't run out by 2050, I think I've said many times, Joliet's timeline is 2030. That is not much time. I know 8 years seems like a long time, but there is a lot of stuff that has to be done over 8 years to get this system in place to serve these communities. You have to start the allocation process yesterday. Last month, it would have been good to start the allocation process. The state of Illinois is the only state that borders, or province that borders the Great Lakes, that is allowed to divert Great Lakes water outside of the drainage basin. A good portion of that water goes down the Illinois River for navigation, but the drinking water that all these communities use from Lake Michigan is a diversion. So the state of Illinois takes that very seriously. They're allowed a certain amount, and they keep very close track of that, and they don't just give it away willy-nilly. So any community that is going to take Lake Michigan water has to go through a pretty arduous process to get a permit, and that's called the allocation process. So that permit application has to be down by March 31st in order to fit the timelines of the Regional Water Commission. So that's not much time remaining to get an application put together. In January this month, the communities are looking at preliminary agreements to join the commission. Next month is when the decision has to be made. The communities have to sign the agreement to become part of the commission if they're going to become part of the commission. As mentioned, by March, some ordinances have to be in place for conservation, which is a requirement of the state of Illinois in order to take Lake Michigan water, and then you have to get that permit application in. That permit application process can take up to 12 months, so it will be March of next year before, potentially before any of these communities would actually get their permission to take Lake Michigan water. During that time frame, there's hearings, there's pre-hearings, there's multiple environmental concerned Sierra clubs and those types of things would come out and contest or want to be convinced that it's the right environmental decision that is being made, rightfully so. So those processes have to take place over the next year. And then October through March 23rd, you would also want to be doing some preliminary design, corrosion control studies to make sure we don't end up with a Flint, Michigan type situation where the differing water quality causes issues. So those studies would take place over the coming year. More longer term, I'll go out to the right end of this one for the sake of time. Once the allocation is received, then the intergovernmental agreement to actually form the commission, that would happen in March of 2023. And then from 2023 through 2024, final design of the commission stuff plus the Village of Channahon stuff. And then there is hundreds of millions of dollars worth of infrastructure that has to be built over the remaining period of time. And so spreading that out will be absolutely necessary to not burden the industry in building all of these tanks and pumping stations and water main pipes. From 2024 on to 2028 and into 2029, it's a lot of construction activities all the way to Chicago. And then 2029 would be commissioning the system and getting everything running for 2030. All right, so I want to go through briefly the Illinois River option that was looked at. This was looked at several different ways. The key ways, the favorable ways were Channahon having sole ownership of a single water treatment plant, down near Tablet Road, where the water would be taken through an intake and treated with an advanced water treatment plant process. The river, we're talking about the PFAS and the chlorides that are in the groundwater, definitely in the river, along with many other things that have to be removed, which can happen. There are treatment plants that can remove to that level, but they are very advanced, they're very high-tech, reverse osmosis membranes and high pressures and carbon filters. The annual maintenance cost to run this plant, it was more than the current entire operating budget for the water system now alone. And then high service pumps pump it into the village's water system. Channahon also looked at neighboring communities potentially partnering for a shared plant, but that would require the neighboring communities to decide not to go to Lake Michigan Water, which wasn't certain, and so these costs are where the costs that will be presented tonight are where Channahon solely owns the water treatment plant and operates it. Again, the computerized water model was used. Quite a bit more extensive improvements have to be made to get the water from all the way on the west side of town all the way to the east side of town. So, the water model was helpful in determining what the cost impacts of that are. As the mayor alluded, this timeline shows, your deep wells running from the year 2021 on to 2050 when you would actually fire up the plant. The bottom row is an interesting thing, though. The shallow wells probably are not going to make it that long before these environmental concerns force the community to shut those off. 2028 on here, that's, could it go longer? I don't know. But it doesn't appear to, trends would show that it's going to make it all the way out to 2050. And also, as the mayor alluded, it's not just a 2050, you push a button and all of a sudden there's a plant there and everything. The environmental permitting to take Illinois River water and treat it and then give it to somebody to drink is going to be a very lengthy process, if it's possible at all. This is the hurdle why the city of Joliet moved away from it. Illinois River was a cheaper option for them. But there was great concern over being able to get the environmental commission to take that water and actually put it in the pipes for people to drink. So the process of starting to switch would safely, I can safely say it would take 15 years to get that process underway. So a comparison of the conceptual rates and the average user utility bills is shown on this. It's also in your handout, probably a little bit easier to read. The top row there is the 2020 average residential monthly utility bill. So this is considering the use of about 5,000 gallons per month. Keep in mind that your utility bill is comprised of your water, your sewer, and your refuse and some other fees. So there's three pockets there. For the sewer and the refuse fees, going forward here and projecting it out to 2030 and then 2050, we just increased those by 3% year over year. That's what the village has been doing with the sewer. The refuse is under a contract, so it was a way to carry that forward for consistency. The water rate is what you want to focus on, and you might want to focus on the total to see what that impact is as well. So the top line in 2030 is no change. This is if as it currently does, if the water rate is just increased at 3% per year, year over year. You can see that for the average water user would result in $43 roughly of a charge. For Lake Michigan, via the Regional Water Commission, your volumetric water rate is anticipated to go from $8.61, what it would be in 2030, up to somewhere between $15.50 and $16. So that brings that $43 up to somewhere between $75 and $80. Now, this is with all of the conceptual costs included. This is not taking into account any sort of possible grants or, there's a lot of bills that are being talked about, infrastructure bills, that in the past have benefited the village of Channahon with principal forgiveness and zero interest loans. This doesn't take any of that into consideration. So we feel it's the most conservative that it would be. So if you look into 2030, that $134, $135 bill would be somewhere between potentially $160 to $175 a month. So that adds about $480 a year to your costs. One thing to keep in mind, softeners would no longer be necessary. The water would come, Lake Michigan water is very polished. I don't know how many people have fixture issues where the shower drain decays. Talk to people that are in Illinois or in Lake Michigan, communities, they don't see that type. So does that offset the extra $480 a year? I'll leave that for you. But not being able to feed that not having to feed that software in the basement anymore, I would find some benefit in that. The Illinois River, on the other hand, you haven't even switched to it by 2030. So for that option, the bills would stay pretty much the same, to be $134 and $135 conceptually. By 2050, though, that's where it's important. Because Lake Michigan water, the city of Chicago feeds 5.2 million people with this water, spreading all the costs and the maintenance out, that water rate grows at a much lower rate than 3% per year. So your water rate is not going to grow. The cost to run a Lake Michigan system doesn't increase at the same 3% per year with no wells to maintain and plants to operate. So by 2050, that water rate has caught up. You would have caught up if everything stayed the same by 2050. You'd have Lake Michigan water for the same price as you would for your well system. The Illinois River, on the other hand, significantly more. You can see once that kicks in, you're up to $300 a month in water bills, and it would continue to rise at a higher rate because now you've got the maintenance of a very costly water treatment plant, which is definitely costs are going to increase faster than if Chicago was taking care of your treatment. So Lake Michigan alternatives, the pros and cons. For the Lake Michigan alternative, the pros and cons are laid out here. Lake Michigan has very high water quality. I assure you, if I set a bottle of the Illinois River here and a bottle of raw Lake Michigan water, I know which one you would all run to. There's a low risk of running out of water or water restrictions with Lake Michigan. With the Illinois River, there's something called a Q710. There's a low flow. One time this summer, there was a concern that the power plant that uses Illinois River was going to have to shut down their intakes because of low flow. And then it rained that day and that went away, but there is a risk of having to revert back to wells if on the Illinois River due to low flows. With Lake Michigan, the water treatment is by other entities, as I've mentioned several times. Secure Lake Michigan allocation when available. As I mentioned, there is a limited amount of water that can be diverted from Lake Michigan. Eventually, the Lake Michigan allocations will run out and no other communities will be able to take that water. There is pretty strong assurance that now these deep well communities will be able to get that allocation, but it's rolling the dice considerably to say that by 2050, Channahon would be able to go get a Lake Michigan allocation because they might be gone by then. Simplified operation and maintenance, lower costs than treating the Illinois River supply, and due to the significantly larger customer base and other factors, costs increase at a slower rate, which potentially results in lower long-term rates, as I mentioned. Cons, you're switching slightly earlier than needed. Although in the water business, 20 years goes by pretty quickly. Commission infrastructure control shared with several partners. That's seen as a con. You would be, as the mayor alluded, you would be a partner with several other communities. But then there's also, there's some benefits to that as well. Chicago control of treatment and sale to commission. So everybody, there is concern of Chicago is going to jack up their rates on year 2. The agreement that the city of Joliet was able to negotiate with the city of Chicago is amazing. It is very transparent, and there's yearly audits that they have to hold to. The city of Chicago has excess capacity. The city of Chicago wants to use that excess capacity and is willing to enter strong agreements with the city of Joliet and the region to use that excess capacity. Higher near-term rates than remaining on groundwater, as you've seen in those slides. With that, finally, I am done.
You were 40 minutes, and okay, I take some of the blame for that now. Just a couple of things I wanted to add. Chris touched on it a couple of times, and Trustee Perrinar brought it to my attention too. The Regional Water Commission agreement that is happening now is it's an opportunity to get into this Regional Water Commission that expires. Once all of the communities that are going to get in it for the 2030 date, we don't have an option of, getting in that water commission and becoming a member of that water commission in 2040 or 2050, and Chris touched on that. I know Chris also talked about a water allocation, and I actually asked this question earlier today, just to make sure that I understood it. Like I said earlier, the residents east of 55 are served by Joliet Water, so even if we decide not to get into this Regional Water Commission, we still have to get a Lake Michigan allocation for those residents east of I-55 and still do all the corrosion studies as well, correct?
Unless you
Especially switch them to well.
Oh, yeah, but then we have a whole nother, unless we switch them to well water and service them ourselves, but then that's a whole nother infrastructure cost as well. Okay, that's all that I have. Is that the end of the presentation?
I'm done, yes.
Mr. Alm, thank you. At this time, we would be very happy to entertain questions if anybody has them. And again, I would remind you, because we are videotaping this for the social media and our website, if you have a question or comment, if you could come up to the podium and use the microphone. Anybody have any questions? There has to be questions. This was a lot of information to absorb. Please, thank you. Welcome to our new resident.
Thank you. One question I had is you mentioned something about some improvements on the existing blue circles that were shown in the plans. What kind of improvements would be made?
Yeah.
Chris?
If you join the Regional Water Commission, there is a requirement that you have 2 times your average day in storage, so some additional storage tanks would be added. We mainly focus that where existing ones are, because people have grown used to seeing things in the air there, or they can be groundable storage. But a majority of it is water mains in the ground to just transmit water across the building.
Okay. Thank you.
And one more thing, our attorney reminded me that this is a public meeting. Could you state your name for the record, please?
And sign in.
There's a sign in there. If you would sign in, that would be great. Thank you. Anybody else with questions or comments? Right. We do have another one of these meetings. It essentially is going to be a repeat of tonight. We wanted to make sure that everybody had an opportunity to attend if they wanted to. So, like I said, I know that it is a ton of information to absorb, and you have handouts, so if you come up with questions later, you are certainly welcome to come back to the Thursday meeting and or email us. We're happy to get questions. And on our website, there is also going to be a frequently asked questions segment. So we will put those out there as well, any questions that we get. Anybody else? I'm sorry, could you state your name, sir?
Joe Mikulich.
Thank you.
Chris, on the water allocation, how much water are we going to be allocated? Can that go up indefinitely, or is there a limited amount of water that the village of Channahon will have access to?
Great question. Illinois Department of Natural Resources is the body that regulates that. The allocation is based on projected average day demands, and yes, it increases at an increment. I believe they give you 20-year allocation, and every 10 years they review it and make sure you're on the right track. They don't want to give, in the past they've given these very large growth and more water than they're seeing people need, and now they're trying to trim that down so they can spread this resource out to as many communities as possible. But yes, they do not want to regulate your growth. They've stated in many presentations that if you've got an allocation and it's bumping up, but then all of a sudden you get a major user that wants to come into town, they would work with you to get that allocation up to accept that major user and to allow for that growth. And they definitely want to see your growth projections to take that allocation into mind.
I've got one more question. If there's some sort of a catastrophic failure to the system, is the village of Channahon able to fire up the well pumps and use that water, or will it be illegal for us to use groundwater based on, I don't know, the conservation entity of Illinois?
So, yeah, another great point. So, yes, the village will keep the wells in standby that they have. You can't use both at the same time for many reasons. But that's another reason for there to be 2 times the average day in storage. Having that much storage either allows the Regional Water Commission or the City of Chicago to do some sort of quick operation that might shut the system down for a couple of hours and come back on. You can use your storage you have. Or if it's a major catastrophic thing that's going to be very long term, that gives you time to get your wells up and running again and keep water in the pipes and keep everybody served. So yeah, the wells will remain as backup for those emergencies.
Another comment up here was brought to my attention. Chris and or Ed, I know you guys have these numbers sort of off the top of your head. The reason that this is such a major decision is obviously there is a very big price tag, and Trustee Greco asked that we share the total cost of hooking onto Lake Michigan or building our own water treatment plant, because those are very big numbers and why this is such a big decision for us. Do you have those numbers with you, Chris? Roughly.
Yeah. So.
Microphone, Chris?
Oh.
Thank you.
So keep in mind that these costs for the Regional Water Commission, some of them are spread out over 20 to 25-year loans. Some of them, the bigger cost is spread out actually over a 30-year loan.
And Chris, I'm sorry, those costs were figured into that slide you presented that was showing.
The rates.
This is not it.
The consensus.
The reason that those rates are what they are is because they figure in these costs, but their numbers were appearing.
So in 2020 dollars, the capital cost associated with connecting to the Regional Water Commission, which includes purchasing your portion of the Regional Water Commission's cost and all your internal improvements that would be necessary, is $75.6 million.
Told you it was a big decision.
Okay, so to build a water treatment plant and do all the internal improvements, and again, these don't include annual maintenance costs going forward. This is just capital costs. This is just building the infrastructure for a water treatment plant, and the intake and the improvements to the water system for the Illinois River was $85.3 million.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Questions or comments?
Yeah, I have one. I guess I should ask this before. So we get the water from Lake Michigan. Is there any maintenance we have to do here, or it just comes right to the house and it's there? Because there's a $10 million difference, and a lot of that has to do with treating it ourselves. If we do it ourselves. So when we go on Lake Michigan, how much will we have to deal with our own water system here in terms of plants or anything like that?
Just real quick, Chris. I'm sorry. The $10 million difference, though, was just capital costs.
Just capital,
Chris
right.
said, so that's not even treating it.
Right.
Yeah. So the cost to operate that treatment plant, like I said, is more than your entire budget right now alone. So you can see significant increases in cost with the treatment plant. With Lake Michigan water, you would no longer have to pump the water from 1,800 feet below ground. So certainly electricity costs would go down. You still have some pumping stations and some additional storage tanks that you have to do maintenance on. But your chemical usage should drop significantly. You should only have to add a little bit of chlorine potentially to disinfect compared to much more chlorine and the HMO chemical that you're adding currently. So,
We still have our internal infrastructure of our pipes and stuff from the pumping station to the faucet.
yeah. Those costs consider keeping the operation and maintenance costs associated with distributing water, but losing the cost to produce the water. We divided the current costs into, here's how much it costs to produce the water, because now you're buying that from the Regional Water Commission. And we kept in place the cost to operate and maintain the system.
Chris, did we determine, or Ed, did we determine what each household would pay for tap on? For this new
Well,
system?
You need
Yeah, included in this, in these numbers, in this analysis, and that we had a tap-on fee of $3,500. And the reason it's $3,500 was because that was the number that the commission was considering imposing across the board. Now, so that's where that is. The fact of the matter is our current connection charge for water is $4,200, give or take. It's actually higher. And it escalates per ordinance of 3% a year. So if we maintain that same scenario, you would actually see these rates a little lower. It doesn't make a lot. I mean, we're talking 20 cents, per 1,000, something like that, maybe not even. But that's where we're at with that.
That's new construction. Yeah.
That is new construction primarily. Yes, it's not, if you're already connected to the system, there's no connection charge. So it's new connection, it would be somebody who was currently on a well. that
People
would run
have
water.
our own wells, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
All the, not just residential, but all the industrial, like there were large tap-on fees, connection charges paid by the boxes.
And in 2050, they'll keep that tap on at 35 months.
They're not setting the tap on. Every individual community will have its own connection charge. It would take a unanimous vote of the members of the commission to set a commission connection charge. So we keep that internal to us, what we want to. We're not turning over any taxing, it's not a tax, but any kind of money taking to anybody else other than us.
Anybody else, questions or comments? I see you all thinking out there. That's okay, like I said, it's a lot to absorb, and if there's something that you have questions on moving forward, we are certainly, like I said, we're going to be here again on Thursday evening. You're welcome to come back or email. That's fine as well. We're happy to answer questions, and the website will have a frequently asked questions. Now, anything we gather from the public will be, as far as questions and answers, will be out there on the website too, so you can check back there frequently. Anybody else? Board, any questions, comments?
They don't just have to come back next Thursday, we have a board meeting on Monday.
We have a board meeting on Monday, yes we do. First and third Monday of every month, 6 p.m. we are here. Staff, anything else from staff?
Mayor, I just want to provide the board that the late this afternoon, we finally got the final draft of the preliminary agreement. So I will be sharing this with you via email. It is with all the exhibits, it's 140 pages long. So this is the thing you will have to vote on when the time comes. So I'm going to make sure we get it in your hands tomorrow via email. If you want a copy, let me know, I'll make you a copy. But you can start to read through it in anticipation of a decision being made at some point in February.
Thank you.
And I thought you were going up to make comments.
No.
Anything further from the public? Anybody need a handout, there's extra handouts? If there's nothing further, we would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by trustee Turner, second by trustee Greco. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Have a good evening. Thank you, everybody.